get to our Facebook page now at Y1025 Kumasi. Y1025 Kumasi. Please come and watch us live on Facebook now. We'll be doing Facebook album. We say, me why fe pa. My say Ghana Cedi no mono say Free Bank of Ghana by a mono chiao. Shout out to NK Splendor Beauty Salon, always holding me down. Today they told me they want me to come rocking my natural hair. And me kon kakrane wo hona amesese me ho kama. Find NK Splendor Beauty Salon at Ahonjon Shire, so adjacent the golf park. They do everything salon services, makeup, hairstyling, hair washing, hair braiding, manicure, pedicure, everything, wig making. They can style you for your weddings, your naming ceremonies, your whatever. And for the men, you're not left out. There is a grooming for you. You can come through the spa and we'll give you some personal grooming that you loved. My guest tonight would be revealed soon, but he tells me that YFM. You know, we'll all go to heaven someday, but there's no beer there. So if you get the chance to drink the beer, I don't know whether is a beer alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Even if it's a fruit juice, it's still beer. Please drink it to your satisfaction. There's no beer in heaven. Atongo Zimba on this one. Take a listen. That's true. There is actually no beer in heaven. You may attribute beer to only the alcohol, right? But in this context, beer is anything that makes you happy. Take it like that. For instance, for the women, there will be no flat tummy in heaven. We'll all wear jalabia. Intimacy pass and more being funny. Heaven now have a beer no assassin so tata. So Didigum, you're quite a mesha jalabia behind my fry. See there, you're welcome. May I know why the song fascinates you?
Yes, actually, I told you I knew you were going to ask that. It's the bit where it says that in this world, some are going to love you, some are really going to hate you. Absolutely. It sums up how the world is when you deal with human beings. Absolutely. I know that it's because it has a catchy title, in heaven there's no beer. Yeah. So anytime that I tell people that it's my favorite song, they think I'm being naughty or I'm actually propagating the drinking of beer. But it's actually YFM. The lyrics that in this world, it's some are going to love you, some are really going to hate you, and that's it. You cannot have a situation where everybody loves you
or everybody hates you.
So that's how.
But I know someone who literally everybody hates.
Well, the person's mother will not hate.
You're really a lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege of speaking to Boafo, who is the former Ghana Bar Association president. I mean, they're just outgone because mommy so we 6 months ago.
I handed over on 4th November.
Okay, so November, December, January, February. Yeah, barely 5 months. So yeah, and Boafo is an astute legal practitioner here in Ghana. You might have heard his name severally. He's very popular, and he's here tonight to have a deep conversation with us. Please get to our Facebook page now. I see someone is watching. Alfred Jima is watching.
Yeah, he definitely will have to. Because he doesn't want to be a respondent to matrimonial calls.
He will be in trouble. I see Onisimos.
Now I think we've changed the saying. Is behind every successful man is a it's a man who doesn't want trouble. So Alfred doesn't want trouble.
Onisimos is watching. Pato Laundry says, Abnaki, I love your vibe. Thank you so much. Ohina Samoa says, you look beautiful, Abna Medasi. Pato says, the man you're yet to interview really likes Komla Dumo. Okay, we'll speak about that. Please join our Facebook page right now. It's going to be a very, very good evening. Senior, once again, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I know how busy you are. Yes, lawyer Onisimos Osei is watching. Big shouts to you. You're welcome. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate your time with us. I'll start the conversation from here. When you're running for the GBA president, I saw even persons who were not lawyers campaigning for you. I think we were friends on Facebook then. I had been told about you, but it was around that time that I got to know you more. I was wondering who this person is, because the Ghana Bar Association is made of lawyers. You need to be a licensed lawyer before you can, be a part of them. But I saw journalists campaigning for you. I saw even entrepreneurs, people who run their own business. It's like everyone was rooting for you. Why do you think all these persons were so keen on having you to be the GBA president, even when they are not in that industry with you?
No, thank you very much. The story behind it is I must give credit to a lawyer friend of mine called Chris Oseyabua.
Okay.
The
Phobian guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it.
And, so what the story, before I come to the story behind it was, the bar is very conservative. And I was a national secretary at the time, and I witnessed Mr. Peter Zwenes, my predecessor, Mr. Anthony Folsen, and my successor, Mrs. Gatti, contest. And it was limited to, that was the first time we're even having WhatsApp flyers and everything.
Okay.
So when we decided that I was going to contest, Samuel Nate, Chris Oseyabua, Parko Akwe, Peter Dadzi were the real, the inner cabinet that kept thing. And so when we prepared the flyers, Saminati made sure the flyers were prepared. That I was national secretary, and we were preparing to go to Bulgaria. So I was campaigning at the same time, organizing the conference, because normally the national secretary is the person who has prime responsibility for the organization of our conference. And when a Zoom meeting, then all of a sudden I saw that Chris had plastered it over social media. And that was the first time, and I was panicking. What was going to be the reaction? So I remember, even though I was hosting the Zoom meeting, Mr. Forson drew attention that I was not concentrating because I was shivering, like what was going to be the reaction. And initially, I was very resistant, but Chris decided that, look, we're not going to listen to you sing, and then Chris just splashed it.
What was your fears?
Because that was the first time going to do that. And see, because we come from a profession that's very conservative, we don't even, traditionally, we don't even advertise.
I hear that a lot.
And, when you're stretching the bounds of anything in the legal profession, it can be very, very, it's very, very sensitive. So when Chris decided that, listen, I'm going to put this on social media, the danger was that I was going to get a reaction that I had done something that was not really in sync with the way we do things, especially somebody who's always been conservative branch of our profession, living in the old ethic rules. But it just caught on. So when I saw the current one between Mr. Jakpaso and Mrs. Gate all over social media extended, so I think I cannot take credit for that decision. Solely Chris Osei, and he actually disagreed with me. He just did it. And that is the only time that a phobian person has done something very fabulous. I'm telling you that. Chris is absolutely, it's Chris Osei was
big shouts to him.
I'm not coming to the main thing. I think that in the journey of life, we make our blessings without knowing. And one of the things that I have come to realize is that anybody you see in life, that person is part of your destiny. Even your enemy. Because you can have somebody who would hate you so much that you may end up somewhere and there's a breakthrough for you. You realize that person, that your enemy is part of your destiny, because if he had not hounded you out of this place, you wouldn't have gone to it. One thing that I shocked me was that I do things without really knowing the impact. When I was Ashanti regional president, KNUST was pretty much a young faculty. And at that time, Professor Stephen Ofer, who was my father's mate was called to the bar, my dad in London, really wanted me to get it, but I was so busy and I always declined. But what I noticed was that there was this very close synergy between the bar and the KNUST faculty. So almost every event, the bar would be invited. So I was always at KNUST when they were doing this. And you go and you see all this tiny 17, 18-year-old first year students. So when you finish like any program, say, can I take a picture? You know how they all view like toys.
Yes.
And I'll stand there, put my arms out them, take pictures with them. Some of my colleagues would be like, this thing. But when I was contesting, those girls had become lawyers. They coined this YB for president. They started all these things. And somebody will see me, this man is a nice person. What can you? I've forgotten about that. So one of the things that I keep on telling people is servants even have access than spouses. For example, if President Mahama is hosting a national security meeting, I think if the first lady were to walk into Jubilee House, they'll ask her to wait. But his attendant, who gives him water, would always get access. It's so thing. Even if we go into the Bible, it was a servant who told Saul that David could play the harp, that brought David into the palace. It was a servant who told the madam that her husband can get healing for leprosy in Naaman. It was a servant who told Pharaoh that there's a prisoner who can actually interpret dreams. He's sitting there. There's a butler who is cleaning his shoes. There's a driver who is always with him. That person can speak to Asante even more than Lady Julia. So if you think that, Asante, so you see some servant walking around Mensia,
you undermine them.
Absolutely. So one of the things that, and so as you rightly said, when you go on social media, I mean, people that I'm
sure there were lots you didn't even know.
Of course, a lot of them I didn't even know, and some you may have just met in person.
And the excitement,
and they just picked about. For example, there's Amo Uswabuate. I think she used Kumase Ama now.
Yes, the spa lady.
Amo took it. Well,
and Patricia Bonsu.
Also, that's her. Patricia Bonsu is a complete troublesome person. She actually happens to be, of all my troubles, I decided to marry a St. Monica's lady who happens to be a classmate, which is my wife's classmate from St. Monica's. And you know, I used to go to Ultimate a lot.
Yes.
So Patricia and Inu were like my sweethearts. I used to call. One was mad, one was very sane. You know, so but you know Patricia takes it like World Cup.
Yeah.
You know? And for her, she was like our sister's husband. You know,
yes, it has to come home.
It has to come home. And you know, it was really, really shocking. I mean, people they took it World Cup, and you'll be there when you go campaigning. Somebody says, "Oh, I know Abnaki Adam." She called me. You see, and that was the beauty of the whole thing, that they were calling their colleague, lawyer friends, people that posted me on their status and all. And you know, somebody will tell you that, oh, this person has called me. It was very humbling. Yeah. It was very humbling. And one of the things that you get to know is that most of them will tell you that, oh, they met you and he said hello to them. Why? I realized that
you don't need to do much.
No, you know, when people see us, you know, when you are at God lifts you to a certain level, be conscious that people don't see you as normal. One of the things that I keep on fretting is how people always think that they have to be very protocol and very formal with me. There is a lawyer who's now working in my office now. My son is a lawyer, but he doesn't know. And he was my son's mate at KUST. And he told my son that he really wants to do his internship. But that good morning, that good afternoon, that smile, that tap on the back, you know, at times people, you go to a function, you see all these young students, you see them pinching each other. Now, you want to take a picture with me? Yes, sir. You know, and at times I ask myself, what is it for you to stand there?
How many minutes does it take?
Know, one of the things that I have always said, and maybe the churches can take this up, that in as much as we teach Christians to stay away from fornication, adultery, alcohol, smoking, and other things, there's a virtue that we have to teach them. That's humility. Yes. Because our good Lord, that was what that Paul said. He said, we should humble ourselves. And for me, humility is no weakness. Without humility, I don't think anybody can succeed. I use the Old Testament a lot as an example. There's a story in 1 Kings chapter 5 that always humbles me. So Solomon was supposed to build a temple. Then he went to the king of Saul and told him, listen, we don't know how to cut wood. Cut wood for us. Isn't it surprising that King Solomon had to go and cut wood? The reason why you need humility is that Abna, you sit here. Those of us watching, Abna has this wonderful voice, but you know there are technicians, there are people pulling things.
Exactly.
You cannot be when the console is. That's the thing.
Yeah.
God
so much goes on behind the scenes
in a way that you would be excellent at everything.
Absolutely.
And you must even at times work with your enemy. Solomon went to a Gentile king to ask I need wood. You know, so this thing that I'm a self-made man. No, you're not. I am this. You're not. Somebody must do something for you. God created us interdependent.
The washing bay guy should wash your car.
That is
so that you go out there.
That is the point. And I've even said that if you look at the human body, Abna has a beautiful face. Nobody says you have a beautiful liver, but if there is a bent on your face, you can even survive. Your liver, you're gone. You know, like somebody will see you. Oh, that's a beautiful car, but you have this thing here. That is without the car wouldn't even move. Without the pedal, you know, that is the thing. So for me, the foundation for success in life is humility. If you don't have it, trust me, you wouldn't succeed, because you can't go and ask anybody for help. But in life, on the average, a day, the truck driver brought you to work. You get the point. The taxi driver, somebody cooks for
your expensive car can get overheated. You need the rickety taxi driver's help.
Absolutely. So, you know, the funny thing is, we don't even know that they are more powerful than us. Before we moved into our current office, we had a caterer in our old office. Then one day, they were sitting around table with all the female. I asked them, who is the most powerful person in this building? Oh, come and see. Senior, is this a trick question? It's you. I said, okay, look through the window. Who do you see? Senior, that's Akos. I said, okay. Can I kill anybody in this office? Like, no. But this girl can kill all of us. Then they started, Rose and Co. Like, I said, yes. She is the lowest paid. She is the most insignificant. But this girl can kill all of
She has
us.
our lives in her soup.
So the fact that she cooks and we eat by faith,
Yes.
don't cross her.
Trust me.
Trust me. If you cross me, the worst thing is sack you for those. You go move another thing.
Because every day sack.
But the thing about Akos is that if you cross her, that's the day that everybody goes there. So that is how I personally believe that we have to approach our lives. Like,
YFM.
So at times when we go to church and we are praying to God, praying to tongues, praying, I think that's one prayer that every Christian must pray. Father, give me the grace to be humble. Trust me. Because see, when you sit in the position of power, it's lonely.
I hear this a lot.
You know, when you go to school, geography says the higher you go, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. Trust me, the higher you go.
I've heard this. I remember I had a conversation.
Isn't it surprising? Let me give you an image that should always etch your memory. Everywhere there's power, the surroundings is very quiet. You see, if you go to Mencha Palace, and there's no, you know, like there is no Adele or something, and you stand where the officer, you look through at something in this area, you see it's very quiet. If you drive through Accra and you see Jubilee House, you see the surroundings is very quiet. Go to Washington, you see what's quiet. What does that tell you? It's lonely because there are days you are sitting in an office.
You wish you had people,
it's
noise.
Closed and people come and then you're sitting in there. You just want somebody to come and say, how is you? You just need, you know, I had this attendant, Steven now, but Steven is one of those persons, he always does everything wrong. And there are some days that I just want him to do something so that I can be telling him when I send you to me, you know, that sort of thing, you know. You get it? Because, and I'll share this story too. So my son was at law school at the time, Marcus, and always had never come to secretariat. He called me that he was coming to secretariat, but when I checked that, I was very busy working. Then I realized that for a very long time, because I thought maybe he had come something. Then Stevie walks into the office. He said, boy, bit to her, was this a friend of my care? Boafo says, was it a band of engineering?
He said that. Why he couldn't see a resemblance?
No, he was. I suspect he had forgotten just like this. I said, Stephen, was that also a friend of my care? Was this a million? I'm still patching me, Panama. Hey, sir. So when he came, but you see, when you walked out and Marcus was sitting, Marcus was like, Benny. So how do you stay humble in all this power? I said, you see, learn this. You are my biological son. You walk in here, somebody cost him in Yaba, make sure you waited 2 hours to see your own father. That should teach you a lesson. That is the thing. But you see, at times, so even with ours, so at times when I see, when I was my father was Ashanti Regional Minister, Minister for Chieftaincy. I go to a restaurant at times, my father is looking in the sky. So you realize the whole world is on his
very
head.
pensive mood.
But for me, I remember the first day he became regional minister, I met him at Sankari. The motor was bringing this. Charlie, now when I go to the regional office, nobody asks me to stop. You know, so for me, I'm another bad now. My father is a minister, but at times I look at my father and I realize that the man is really not. There are some days I'll go and sit down with him. Yeah, you don't forget the man isn't forgotten. He's talking to you. Now, when I look at my old man, he's 42, he'll be 83, and he looks like a 60-year-old, you know. But when I saw my dad in those days, you know, look at President Obama's face, how he changed, President Boafo, you look at all of them, how they changed. And you feel that we all look at power, every time we see them, they are standing in exalted places, taking salutes with the convoys, yes, sitting in private jets and everything, yes. But every day, we don't even know what they know. So, that is why you need the people around you. You know, how therapeutic was it for me at times, you know, you get into the secretariat and people think. And let me share another story on this segment. This thing I'm talking about, working with people. I practice here. Then I win the election to become national secretary in 2018 against a legend. You know, Boafo, the famous, I didn't say, you know, the election petition. He had been secretary for 6 years, so coming. And because he had stayed in the secretariat for a long time, most of them supported him, which is natural.
Yeah.
So the first time that I walked into the secretariat, I went to say hello to them. It became a routine that when I get in, I'll say hello to everybody and get up. One day I was there in Helen, the Greater Accra region. I said, sir, you know, the first day you walked into my house, I thought you were going to sack me because I was so scared. He said, nobody's even said hello to me before. And, you know, I worked with them for 3 years. So one of them is dead now, Rita. About some, you know, before you take decisions about a year before, one day I was there and I said, sir, so unkunyaye. Rita, when you said, menkunyaye, said, menkunyaye. You know, and I was like, if I had contesting the presidency, this was it. But then, you know, talking about these things, you know, people, our pastors are praying for you. There's a security guard at the secretariat called Reverend Dog Becker. One day I was there, they said, Papa, me soon Diana abonuma me nusi oha. Me can't say be a so when we need president na yimedi. So I'm thinking, oh, pastors are praying for me. No big pastor has come to tell me that he has seen that I'm going to win. But this security guard. But then one of the things that shocked, I asked him, Roxanne, I said, Papa,
Charlie.
So I was like, what is it that a security guard thing? And truth, for the day that I won the GBA election, apart from my mother, he's the only person I picked his call. Because the calls were coming in. So apart from my mother, as my wife was a lawyer, I knew she had heard it. And my dad was there, but he had gone to a hotel, so I knew they had heard it. My mother was the only... No, I didn't come because I knew she was going to scream and shout, so I'd call home to tell them that this is what. He called me and I picked and said, Papa, send me catch rail. And you know, I was sitting, I was almost teary-eyed that. Why would a security guard?
Of all the places.
Of all the places. And it's all because when I get there, every time I get there, Papa, divine selection at here, Roxanne, I'll just stop and say hello to. And you know, they'll be washing your, you know, they just want to take your bag, you know, and that sort of thing. And you know, I was like, why? What is it? I came from Kumasi to unseat somebody you worked with, but we did 2-3 years. These people were all like Nkunjaye, you know. Then you realize that the little things that we do, because I don't give them, apart from Stephen, maybe at times you send me and your 50 cedis is locked up with you. You know you're not going to get it, so you tell him to take.
One here, so
so you know you're not going to get your ticket. But Roxanne at times, weekend, Roxanne there, the 50, that was the thing. But the most important thing was, and for me later I realized that it's just because I was the first person who could even stop and say hello to them. And it was really, really
making a difference in their lives.
And I think that if I did anything as president, it was those people around me when I realized the impact I'd made on just little things. So I would tell anybody listening to me, listen, the good morning, the smile, you know, the tap on the back, that's what the people want from you. You know, life is like the rich man and Lazarus. The Lazarus didn't want to eat at the table of the rich. He said the crumbs. You know, sometimes I see some narcissism behavior and I'm shocked. You know, like somebody would be walking around and somebody would say good morning because the person is nobody. About 8-9 months I started playing golf, you know, and
someone just told us.
Yeah, and when I go there, you know, the caddies, I'll be laughing with them. So I was there and somebody said, oh, they want to organize some tournament, so I did it for them. You know, so now I've realized that when I go there, you know, law, all the boys, law, you know, and it's nothing. You know, it's nothing because those boys, if they had somewhere comfortable, they'll not be following us around. But I think we cannot play the golf carrying our bags. Jesus Christ needed a syringe to carry his cross for him at that moment. That for me is all that is. So I'll just tell everybody that it's not about having anything, but I know that there's no formula to all these things. But please treat human beings right, because one of the things that people forget is this. I always tell people that the human beings that we don't trust, they're the ones that help us. The devil uses them to hurt us. God uses them to bless us. After the manna falling from God, has the one brought manna from heaven. And you know, absolutely. It's like, you know, for example, you'll be praying. I don't know you were praying. Then you just see me. Oh, Abna, for you, God has answered your prayer. It's because God used me. So this whole idea that people think that because of pain that human beings visited upon us, everybody else. There are women who had terrible boyfriends, but today are happily married. And you see, but there are some people who think that young man who broke my heart is perpetually every man is no. So let us understand that. Just as we don't trust human beings, they are still the same group of people that God is going to use to bless us. So let's treat human beings as human beings.
We've had a whole sermon. A whole sermon. I'm short of words, but like you said, nipa ya chenipa. Why? Umpenchia sisa usubai. Your father has a lot of. Your father is known. I think when the name Boafo is mentioned, he's the one that people remember even more than you.
YFM.
Take us back to your family. How many were you? Where did you grow up? And what was it for you to have such parents that you had?
Okay, so my story is, I know my dad likes me always saying that I was born out of wedlock, so I'm not a Mrs. Thing. So the story is this.
But then he got married to the same woman.
No. You see, so I'll tell you this thing. My father is actually celebrating his 60th wedding anniversary tomorrow.
Please, I'm coming. It's been long since I ate jollof.
Yes. So my father and my stepmother have been married for 60 years, 20th March 1965. So he's actually going to UK to celebrate it.
Not many know this, right?
Yes. My father says he's actually in the UK because my stepmother is in the UK, and so the thing. So I was born out of wedlock. Now, you see how God works. The funny thing is, so my mother was a nurse in the UK, and I don't know what happened between her and this man. So that's the thing. My mom told me that she got pregnant with me, and then she was like, I was like telling the story about, young girl here, Papa, you know the fear. Then he said he went to speak to some Ghanaian doctor about
you.
Well, naturally, and the doctor said, Kofi. So my mom told me the story that when she was coming to Ghana, she actually had to lie about
you being there.
When I was young and you went to school and those who were born in Britain had British passports, I used to fight with my mama. My mom would tell me stuff like, later when I got to the UK, I realized that if I'd been a single parent boy in isN'T, I would have ended up in jail or something. I thank God for my life. Yeah. So that's the story. And
where was your dad when?
My dad was actually, my dad. So when I was born, my dad was still studying law in the UK.
Did she break the news to him that?
Oh yeah, my father actually came to Ghana to name me and go back. My father is a son of
So he took responsibility.
My father.
Okay.
He never. There's one thing about my dad that I can tell you straight up. He would never ever support any son of his, whether you are married or single. You go and get a girl pregnant and come and say that my father will kill you even if it comes out of your mouth. Okay. So that is who he is.
Right.
And then my mother told me a story recently. He actually told me this story just 2 years ago. So my mother said that when she came, my mother was taking care of my mother's elder sister's husband.
Okay.
So he was in Bolga, and my mom was heavily pregnant too. So he went to report herself to her father that I brought pregnancy. So it's like my uncle grandfather was very close to Morgan Abba Martin Abeliba.
Okay.
So he said, my mother said when he went, the Morgan Abba Abeliba looked at her heavily pregnant. They said, Mommy, ubay that you Morgan Abba. My mother was like,
no, listen, I don't know where Bolgan.
No, I said, the Morgan Abba. And the funny thing, my mother forgot all these things. And later, the dots connected. That's why I'm saying that there's nobody who, what God said about this good part. The dots connected in the sense that I was obsessed in getting the conference to Bolga. It was, I didn't know for reason. So when those things, and my mother actually had forgotten it. But so what actually happened was, I was born at Confanoche. Right, and my mother got a job at W0MEN Presbyterian as a nursing sister in charge of the hospital. So the story is that my late uncle, when I started speaking Bono, and those days, Wafa sent me in Kabono. So I was brought in as a tender boy to come and live with my mother's elder sister. That's where I grew up. So,
but where is your mother from?
My mother is Wachine Krum. That's my hometown.
Oh, just watching a chrome.
Yes.
Okay.
No, Achina Krum. I don't like Ejuso.
Okay.
I'm from Achina.
Yes, sir. And your dad?
My dad is from Konongo.
Okay.
Yeah, so
where was Ebono coming in from?
No, my mother went to work at W0MEN Crew.
And they feared you may.
No, actually, I heard that when I started speaking, the words coming out were Bono. So my uncle, my late uncle, said,
okay,
so I was brought down to come and live with my mother's elder sister. So those of you who know, you know this airport road from from Sewenyako Junction going to airport. This used to be called Negration College. It's from building there. Yes, so the house that shares the wall. That's where I grew up.
Oh.
You get it with my mother's elder sister. And then I used to go and spend weekends with my father. Okay. Then later we came to live at Patas. And then when I was 9 years old, it was a midterm. I went to spend my dad said, hey, and that's the story. So I lived with my father till I became an adult.
So your mom had other siblings for you?
Yeah, so my mom
YFM.
So I have a sister on
from your mother's side, and then your daddy's side.
On my father's side, we are.
Yeah, you did.
As they say, legit for we are many. You know, my father is a thing. But so that is a thing. But my father, when I was a kid, if he had died, I would jubilate him. My father was strict. Very, very, very.
I'm sure your son will say the same about you.
Yeah, but the intriguing thing is that he never beat us.
Okay.
That's it. But you see, the sight of my father was scary. So I was very strict. And when I grew up, I realized that
it was all for a purpose.
Absolutely. So when it comes to my parents, my father and my mother, I don't play with them at all.
Senior,
but then,
just a moment.
When the food is rich and tasty, Adam's Kitchen. Ain't you beer to me, Toby? Adrianic Yamike, Zeda, Yet see packaging. Adam's Kitchen. Jollof and fried rice with assorted options. Aponchiso de oho, pizza, special noodles, Bunkune tilapia. Adam's Kitchen. Aroma no Kumase, your main restaurants, our panels, Tafo, KNWC, and Amstead. More flavor. Namamu Buakwani Atasmanso, Yamamu mini restaurants. Adam's Kitchen joints, you know, Ubeyedu Apachapa, Boko Krum, and in Nigeria. You will order says ya, not to a 053-7277-856, announce 020-320-4416. Adam's Kitchen. Lakeside Party, away back, Easter Monday.
Tophobia, any accessories for Sea-White Foods. What now, your papa? You go off of Sea-White Foods. Oh, bien, see
Malaria fever.
Your Wednesdays just got exciting. Midweek Madness while Bonte. Join us every Wednesday at the P2 Lounge, Kumasi City Mall. Let's party in madness. Don't forget, the party is going to be live on YFM. This is Midweek Madness.
My guy, hey, catfish from Fish Republic. It makes sense. Call 0536-301-746. It be.
Yemetiefo nyina kwa ababa Amuzu Herbal Clinic. Na yedidobi abafe na Amuzu P Herbal Mesha. Eyedura obi odwo nso a emu papa ye. Be mo odwo nso oti ya owum. Be ma bi oti ya wanka so ni be ma numu. Be mo odwo nso moja. Anase be mo odwo nso a ni mo totro na firi be no mu ba. We ni hawa wo hu a. Edura American farmer no. Eya Amuzu P Herbal Mesha. Obi said doctor me dware wi a. Ne hunam ya me hene. Ebu on so ase mbo bi se huko dwie. Ena me hunam ani. So ho saa de no so Amuzu P ena me kanfo ama. Obi said doctor me dwon so ana mu ache minu. We na mosen. Me dwon so wi ana bi akam. E na ma ya so ya me ya. Uhu saa ha ya me kan ya. Edura me kanfo ama no. E ya Amuzu P Herbal Mesha. ojo so moja anase ojo so no eni nye fe ni etum anase eni eko anase pampaya anu o shepa de jo so na echi se sa ha no na ohu a edra meka fo ama no ya amuzu pi eba mesha ebia na oti ya ontohwe no mu ya na ya oya onya amuzu pi no mu a sa ha no nyina beko na obabi so a otie mi a insasa agi na kosheku ma boso anase pampaya mema yempe agina hemfi aboso insio basa egu ka ho so wasa ha na amuzu pi na mekanfo amaw bia no de odepo na hawa mene sebi ukotwa askan yesi wanya PID eni nti onu ukunu hia ni insio nyina babontene manye se hu ye ya de amawa amuzu pi na beboa wo ngeka ya tata usama wanya bleeding busume ba kon utumi bu nsa impremi oba wasa ha no amuzu pi na mekanfo amaw oba ebu onso ne kunu hia eyaw nko anoti onti desi kapre wo so mekanfo amuzu pi amaw no mwe na sa ha ne nyina ko edura meka ho asem ho nye dene ne buo so nye dene okọ heba so pharmacy yera benye bi etu wanye bi ato kumasi ha okọ dani heba mr bapidan ko mutu bi sentombi opa amuzu pi hu se misi bia frena ma 0247 776743 amuzu Heba Clinic Mauji Hiwachalo
Bema wo Johnson ni mupai ebikam eyawo eni moja edi akira ana wote mpampan ewo Johnson nechi ensansa gu bema no edura ebeboa eni amuzu pi oba obam no wote mpampan bone ewo ensuo bi fifiri mu ba etoda emu ekekawo edura ebeboa eni amuzu pi ubenya bi ewo pharmacy ne herbal shops nyinam.
When you have the extra bit of ambition in your heart, you also need that extra bit of energy to come through. And for that, Rush Energy Drink is the boost you need. Created in the USA and proudly made in Ghana. Thanks to its unique formula, you have the power of ginseng, the benefit of vitamins, and the energy of inositol, taurine, and caffeine. Stay active and energized.
After hours of planning, Kwame and Yao placed a perfect multi-bet. A big win on United and both teams to score in the London Derby. But Yawa, who could have picked Leicester over City? Or a high-scoring game at the London Stadium? But Kwame no dey shake. Unlike Yao, he did bets plus Betway. And with Betway's Bet Safer, he can win even if his bet misses. On multiple losses, he can get back his bets and more. Bet Safer, exclusive to Betway. Get way more. Terms and conditions apply. Regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18.
Condos de la Chichi, it's luxury at its best. We have options to choose from for a perfect rest. Standard, studio, executive, or suites. The choice is yours to make. Luxurious living with kitchenettes for a stylish escape. We have bed and breakfast, laundry service, conference rooms for business, and leisure for you. The Los Angeles Lounge on the 4th floor has a high poolside view and entertainment as the sun sets in the sky. Locate us at Santasi off April Road, a convenient and luxurious space. Condos de la Chichi, where luxury meets affordability. Contact us on 0509-268-723.
Malaria fever.
Agriculture is for everyone, and I dream of the day that everyone will have an agriculture, vocational, or technical story to share. My name is Araba Kumsin, and I welcome you to Ghana Grows Ejuma.
Join Araba Kumsing on YFM 102.5 every Monday at 8:30 a.m. for the Ghana Grows Ejuma broadcast. Don't miss Ghana Grows Ejuma broadcast on TV3 at 5:45 p.m. every Sunday evening. For more information on how to register for the Ghana Grows program, call the Springboard call center on 030-8255-775 or visit Springboard Zone or Ghana Grows on social media.
Ghana Grows Ejuma is brought to you by Mastercard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation.
Let's go. Darling.
Yes.
Ye bedidina meche Angel Cola. Me bread do. Obi fa Angel Cola drink. Na ni yonku eyi Angel Orange. Ana Angel Mango. Ose me san pedi obi eyi. Aka me dem.
Chese obi ape Angel soft drinks ni nyina bi.
Aye, Daddy. Me say me penny ni nebi.
Sister, what dear mama Angel Peach, Angel Strawberry, and now Angel Cocktail. Actually, no my budget Angel Apple Lime.
What ye? A sunny of my dear. Mr. Angel Cola, any Angel Orange, and a mania. I'm feeling and
it's also from wifey. For us, Chester, no, Ebesia. Never Angel drinks in a room. Obianca Tan in Winnie. There was Sabbath Mono, no anum.
Annie, that's a massa. And no, no.
There be a sunny and no.
Angel Cola, the Assemble. Angel drinks here. I'm in a bush. I don't call soft drinks beverages limited. And why? Who to do after one? 0244 83 22 86 and 050 78 78 668.
Angel drinks.
Taste like our day.
FDA, Ajay Dane Kratoyatum.
Kumasi's newest hot sport is here. That's right. Where the games are always on, the drinks are always flowing, and the party never stops. Welcome to Independence Lounge. On weekdays, we are open from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. and on weekends from 11 a.m. till late. Don't miss out on Champions League football matches on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Plus, our Tipsy Wednesday every Wednesday, 7 p.m. On Thursdays, we're singing out loud at the Indies Karaoke with free tequila shots for our first 20 ladies. Fridays are for the ladies from 7 p.m. It's Lithic Fridays. Sundays, 4 p.m. is brunch, sit and paint party. Our restaurant is selling all continental dishes with pizza and shawarma also available. Plus, our signature loaded anguamo. Locate Independence Lounge at Denyame, same premises with New Orleans Hotel. For deliveries and reservation, call 0248 952 364.
Official frequency for the young and young at heart.
I wish that there were secret cameras in the studios. I mean, whilst we're on break, there's a lot of beautiful conversations happening here. Let me get back on Facebook again. Daniela Fum says that you're his professional golfer and lawyer. Grace Amakwata says, a Phobian has done something fabulous, got me laughing. Yeah. Oh, hello, Grace.
Married and my stepfather. That's my sister.
Oh, that's your Grace.
That's my sister.
Nice one.
There's the two of us.
Please let me say shout out to Sperkify, one of our proud sponsors. Sperkify is a one-stop shop for everything jewelry. So if you're looking to buy earrings, necklaces, elegant bracelets, bangles, wristwatches, accessories, and everything that'll make you feel like $1 million, they've got you covered.
This is YFM.
YFM. You can find Sperkify at Kasi Guinness Junction in the same building with Latex Foam. You can reach out to them on 0533 346762 or 0533 338773. So whether you need earrings, necklaces, any other thing about jewelry, Sperkify can cover you up on that. Ambi Executive Restaurant is also one of our sponsors. Find Ambi Executive Restaurant at Adiemra, 500 meters away from the Gracefield Chapel Havila Temple. Whether you want breakfast, lunch, or dinner, Ambi has you covered. Ambi says, come and dine in a scenery that feels like home. So if you want local dishes or continental dishes, Ambi Executive Restaurant can serve you. And wherever you are in Kumasi, when you place an order and it's delivered to you, is 5 Ghana cedis. Ambi Nkwani to me. A quick quick reminder that we are still soliciting for funds for the Heal Konfanochi project. Makacho se Konfanochi de BFE, Biabetumia Kwako, that would be a Biabetumia Kwako PO. I mean, when let's say you are even in that capacity to afford a private hospital service, when push comes to shove, you could end up at Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. Timestio, no amount is too small. Please dial *776*1955# or the mobile money number is 0544-195-525. You can also use the merchant ID 195-525. And then finally, last week we spoke about toilets, all right? And you'll be still a you fear be more amuni bin timesio with a miana mesre wo say 1 city, 2 cities, 20 cities send them out mommy na yintumi my fear ba could be omuni washroom in yebi dial *887*122# and then donate to Clean Team Ghana. Right, so we are back to continue the conversation. Senior, you were telling us about how even your daddy's eye can send one to jail without he saying anything.
Yeah, so my father was very strict, and I think that you know, at times when I look back, they went through difficult times during the revolutionary era, and I think I share that experience in my my final speech to conference. I said that. We know at times we take certain things for granted, and because of my background, I think I appreciated becoming bar president more. That I would never wanted to do anything to create instability. People thought I had compromised, and the reason was that, you know, my uncle, I have two uncles who are lawyers.
Yes,
but one started out as a tax person of the GRA before later became. But when I was young, you know, my father and my uncle Boafo, who was called by 1980, so they were the two of them. And I remember, you know, vividly, there was this thing called the bar conference. So how would you do? We were packing our father's things. And my late paternal grandmother, my father and my uncle's mother, lived with us. And during that period, you know, my grandmother would be, because for me, my father was away for 3, 4, 5 days, and that's freedom when you were a kid. But my grandmother will be praying all manner of tongues, thing and thing, you know, and she'll be and we'll be sitting there laughing, lady dear, you know, that sort of thing. And for me, that was freedom. My father had this Peugeot 504, the number was TRA 504, and those Peugeots had a very distinct horn. So you'll be there, you hear, then my grandmother will go, so I was like, what is this thing that
someone is sad and another is happy?
And then it turns out that in those days, when you attended the bar conference and you criticized the government, it could be some BNI interrogation. So I appreciated what it was, because my father was National Secretary of the bar between 1982 and 1985. So we have the distinction of being the only father and son National Secretary. And my father always told me when I was young, you know, and this is at times people think that when you come from a gilded background, my father always told me that I should try as much as possible to do better than him. I was like, are you sure? So when I became National Secretary, I had done what my father did. And my father was like, yeah, no, you're going to be the national president. I'm like, Daddy, he said, you go with. And you know, my father was really pushing, you know, he came to Bolga to spend the whole conference with me, campaigning for me, calling anybody he knew and everything. And when I became national president, my old man was happy. And
you have leaped where he
gone one step ahead of it. So the thing is that at times, you know, there's a very false narrative in this country that people born into certain backgrounds have it easy, but you know, creating something is not as difficult as sustaining something.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're a first timer, there's no pressure on you. You know, pressure is different from economic pressures. People who don't even have food to eat. And there are times that you have food and you can't eat. The point is that when somebody is born into a certain background, it is like he has to do what his father has done. You know, especially if you, like me, you decide to do what your father did. And you were talking about me having a very famous father. When I was a kid, when I was a young lawyer, people walk into my office. Maybe lawyer, Boafo lawyer, and up to this day, I'm still lawyer, Boafo lawyer. You know, everything you do, it's a blessing, and it can also be difficult. But you see, when you are there and you're growing up, and the challenges there, it's quite. Let me say, it's challenging, you know. And I'll tell the reason why I went to secondary school very early. So in my year at Prempeh College, I'm the youngest because I went to secondary school 2 years before my time. This is the story. So between 1979 and 1981, my father was a member of parliament for Asante Achem South at the time. That was Konongo area at the time.
Okay.
And I think, so 1980, my uncle had been called to the bar. And my father, Professor Boafo, and my uncle were all sitting in front of the house. So my father came. I had not seen he had been in parliament. Then he was like, okay, I will tell my report to him. And when you attend Cambridge International and you are first in the class, I mean, your head was big. So when I brought it to my father, he looked at it this way. This is why I did. Then he started telling me that, you know, my grandfather was the managing director of Ghana Cooperative Bank. He's a lawyer. Professor Boafo was sitting there. Then my dad was like, so who did first for primary school if he had one year? Then he asked me, can you write a common entrance if you think you are? I said, I will do it. So my father got me registered at primary. And that is how I gained admission to Prempeh College 2 years ahead of my time, because of that challenge my father gave me. So if you go to Prempeh College, even though I attended Cambridge International, my official record shows that I came from Wesley College Practice Primary, because my father knew Master Breachroom, and they registered me, and I managed to make the mark to go to Prempeh College. So that's sort of the challenges that my father posed me, you know. And when I was a kid, I never understood it, and my father was always on my head, especially. And when I needed my father most, and I thank God when he was alive, was when I became a young lawyer. You know, there are too many temptations around the time. And my father is this dominant figure, you know, up to this day. And I'll tell you, I mean, up to this day.
His name is still relevant. I don't do certain things for my father.
You know, for example, he is the number one. I mean, I just don't take my presidency in front of him up to this day. And if you ask my friends, they know very well that if my father is around, there are certain things you never get me doing. I still don't mess about with him because even now, when I go somewhere, I go. No, when I cross it, he can tell me. You know, my father still at times can lose it and tell me as it is, and I still love it. You know, so the day that he tells you that, look, you're doing well, you know very well that it's not some thing. So having a prominent gilded father who set an example for me is been a blessing. It's been challenging and difficult, you know, because at times, you know, you can never be yourself, but I love it that way. You get the point. But then it keeps on pushing you, and having a wonderful father. And I also have an absolutely wonderful mother, for the simple reason that my mother pampers me. My mother pampers me.
You are still a mommy's boy.
I would always be a mommy's boy. You know, everybody knows that. I think Christy's my number one girlfriend. She'll be 88 on 15th August. You know, my mom pampers. And the funny thing is that even today, you know, she lives with me now. Even today, she does things that at times you just have to take it like that. For example, you know, when Asante was celebrating the Silver Jubilee, my wife and I were invited to the dinner before the Saturday. We got home very late. So in the morning, I was going to my dad so that we go to the funeral. I was getting ready. And she just walks and said, hey, I know idea 1 month. I was like,
Baby, I'm in a dream.
No, I was like, ma, hey, I saw my So I just kept kind of, my sons were like,
and I
was like, you know, You see, so every morning I have to at least call her, let her
show yourself, register yourself.
Yes, because no matter what you do, they still pray for you and everything. And that's why I personally feel very sad when we start teaching some kind of things in the church today that when people get married, they have to throw their family away, and you have all these things about wives and mothers-in-law and all these
things. And that if you have a car and you're going with your mother and your wife, where do they sit?
And the toxic things that goes on with it. I don't know who started teaching those things. I don't know why people are teaching something so toxic. The little that I know is that in our society, marriage is the union of two families, not two individuals.
Yes.
We cannot be bringing those things. And at times when I listen to these counselors, Samia Dubachi knows my views about these things, and I hear people teaching that what I talk on very toxic thing. So now you realize that people go into marriage and they think that because they've shown up, somebody's mother has no place, and all these manipulative
forgetting
theology.
That someday they are going to be the mothers.
No, but the thing is that why should you marry somebody and you cannot accept the person's family as part of you?
No, Sina, but in the reverse, they forget that someday your child is going to get married to somebody.
Not even that. Do you know what I find so amazing? When we have funerals, we expect our spouses, family members to come and mourn with us. But we don't want to be welcome for them to come and... that is the thing. For example, if I have a funeral, my wife's family members show up. If they have a funeral,
your family shows up.
Recently my wife lost a grandmother. And my father, my uncle, all of us, we went to Yefri, my wife's hometown, to commiserate with them. So why should my mother-in-law not be able to walk into my house and visit the daughter, or even come and spend time with the grandchildren? And you see, for me, these are things that I don't know who's teaching them, but I don't think that we should be able to
allow it to stay
because
in
yes, some of them are difficult, but what does the Bible teach us? And as far as possible, let us live at peace with all men. So these are some of the things. So for me, I'm blessed to have the parents that I have. My mother in particular, because didn't give up on me when I was young. I was very naughty. I wasn't a bad boy. I was a naughty boy. I don't want to get to the fact that you married the only worst person who came out properly. But that's another thing. But the thing is that for me, my parents, I thank God that they're still alive. And they didn't give up on me. Not that I was some kind of like perfect, ideal child. I know the number of times I've made my mother cry, but the most important thing is that they kept on praying for us and they didn't give up on me.
Sina, let me ask you, as a young lawyer growing up, I would want us to talk about your presidency as in the GBA later on, but when you finally became lawyer, was that something you wanted to do, or because your father was so and you are the first son, you had to?
No, I was actually my father's first son, but you see, the thing is that no matter what people would always say that no, I always wanted to, and it's because of this. At a very young age, I realized something, that do what you can do best, not what people people are doing. You see, when I went to school, in our time, we're fortunate that when we went to Form 1, you did everything. When you get to Form 3, then you choose, going to Form 4, you choose your subjects. These days, I think the difficulty is that somebody's as a BEC, I want to be a science, and the person is bound by it. So when I went to Form 1, I think because of my stepfather and always walking around, my mother worked at EGC hospital, always walking around hospitals with stethoscope. I wanted to be a doctor, but the reality was that I was one of the best students in history, BK English, but when it comes to chemistry and you see me getting 15% and 16%, I mean, that was the stark reality. So
you're not alone.
So when I got to Form 4, I remember this thing very, very well. So at Prempeh College at that time, they used to put all of us together. So I'll be something like 86 out of 120 or something. And I remember when we went to 4A, that's 4 arts. I have this friend, number 1. He walked into the class and he was like, "Hey, I feel ni be home more yadi or classroom. Because now he's realized that we're not going to do chemistry and all the sciences anymore. We're coming into our domain. And some of my friends didn't realize that from Form 5 to 6 I was doing better than them now. So I just realized that there's no way
you fit in the medical.
But I had a gift, reasoning, could speak. I was very confident speaking. If you ask anybody who's known me since a kid, I can talk for Ghana. You know, I've never been faced by a crowd, you know. So I realized that, and I was very methodical in my arguments, and I could do so many things. So I just realized that, look, it fitted me. It's just a coincidence. I had a father and an uncle who were
in the industry.
When they show, people thought that, but it's something I bet, and the evidence was that I was not cut out to be a scientist. I always wanted also to consider maybe being a historian, because history was a subject that those are the two things that I was considering. But for me, at that young age, I knew very well that it was the humanities and the arts for me. Sciences had nothing to do with me. That is all that is. So what I always tell people is that I don't like telling people what to do, but I'm just saying that, listen, just look at yourself.
Where do you fit?
If you are not honest to yourself, you'll never succeed. You know, people can say things about you that are not true. Just 2 weeks ago, my younger brother was a court of appeals judge, Justice Boafo. You know, he comes up to me. I was in Accra. I came, and then they were attending the funeral in the Volta region with this man who was his client, so now I've taken over. And he told my brother that, why is your brother so quiet and calm, and you are? He said, do you know? So I was just supposed. Do you know your as they were driving it, David calls me. Yeah, come and listen to Kosi. He says you are very calm.
Calm and collected.
I know I'm not calm. So even though somebody thinks that I'm calm, I know very well that I'm not a calm person. So the issue is that always be honest to yourself.
Who do you say you are?
Yes. My dad will tell you that if you know you were a thief, and pastor wants to make you the person to count church,
denounce it or
decline that before you get yourself into trouble. So the issue is, when you sit there and you're honest to yourself, you would realize that there is a skill set that you have, something that you do best. Then you can start looking at the profession that fits it. You know, when you sit behind the console, because you're good at what you do, it comes effortless. But put somebody there, the person will start shivering. So you're not cut out to be, but somebody, I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. You know, that is our problem. You know, people trying to tell people that do this thing. You know, that is why I don't like motivation. Why? I don't like certain messages.
I started my restaurant with 2 grains of rice.
I don't like certain messages preached in the church about prosperity and all those sort of like monolithic narratives. There's a formula to life. No, because seriously, some people are billionaires taking garbage. You get the point. You know, there are some people who can never be entrepreneurs, because at times, you know, when you look at the scale of certain entrepreneurs, you realize it's a blessing that they have. There are some people who can never be medical doctors because the sight of blood will just let them curl. You know, there are some people who cannot do that. So don't ever sit there and say that somebody is this because I want to do with that. But a lot of people have a basic disposition of envy. You know, I want to be better than Abner because I think I'm better than her. You're going to miss the point. So for me, what I always tell people that, what can you do best? If you want to be a lawyer, do you have the skill set to do it? If you want to be a doctor, naturally, because there's something that comes to you naturally. For example, if you are somebody who from childhood cannot even look at somebody's face and speak, how do you expect to walk into a courtroom and
argue a case
and see it? So these are some of the things that a lot of people do. So don't do this thing because
that would make me ask you, how was your first day in court like? Would you remember the experience?
Yes, I will tell you a story. I was called to the bar on 6th October 1995.
You're good with dates.
Yes, it was a Friday sort of thing, and the Tuesday, Justice Mariam Maus, who just retired the Supreme Court, a circuit court judge, and he said I should start a case. The title was Republic vs. Sarah Kunama.
Okay.
I didn't know what we were doing, but Mariama was not scary. You know, she was a young woman at the time, and we were doing it in the afternoon with the female prosecutors who are taking me like this. So it's not fair. But me, I don't know where my village witches always seem to be chasing me. What is my problem? So, you know, normally the High Court would resume a week after. So this is like maybe the week after. And then I followed my father to court. There was this judge called Justice Boama. he was very handsome. I mean, I'm gonna be very handsome. So when he wore the, I mean, handsome in inverted commas. So when he wore the wig, he looked very scary. And Justice Boma was so hard working. He sits at 9 o'clock. So every time his courtroom is packed. Then I think there was a matter. My father said he was going somewhere, so I was supposed to adjourn it around 2 o'clock on a Monday. And Justice Boma said, "Start the matter." I didn't know what is this. Then the late lawyer Sekweku intervened for me. Then Justice Boma said, "Okay, go and read this thing and come the next day to come and argue the matter." So this is like.
But it wasn't your case.
It was first my father's case. I mean, that time you can take it. Okay. So the same chambers. So I was out there about 12 days at the bar or something. If I work something like that. In the morning, I go to court. Now, when I got to the court, it was packed. And you know, by our tradition, they have to call the senior lawyers
first.
So me, I was relaxed, minding my own business. Justice Bama walks into the courtroom. Then he said, "Oh, Mr. Pobi, Mr. Toto, Mr. Champon, all these legendaries were there." I adjourned Mr. Boafo and Miss Jessie. You know, now Justice Jessie Johari. You know, she's about 4 years my senior.
Okay.
He said, "I adjourned Mr. Boafo and Miss Jessie's case to this morning. I want to hear them." Now, when I turned around, the two senior Boafos were nowhere to me something.
You're on your own. So what took you see?
When I stood up, suddenly it was morning, but I could feel my gown. You know, I was wearing a singlet, so my gown was fitting. Then I started talking. That Boma was heckling me. So when I was talking, then the late lawyer took up here and said, I was like, okay. Then I looked at a lawyer I consider the greatest I've ever worked with, W0MEN. He just edged me. So I just said what I thought I had said. When I finished, I ran away. They said my father was looking for me. So I escaped down somewhere. My dad had this, because he studied on that, the late Mia, so they had this habit of going home for lunch and coming in there.
Is it Tony Mia's dad?
Father, yeah, he trained my father. So my father will go home for lunch. So I walked into the office. Then I saw my uncle. I said, I don't go here, keys be coat and I said, I'm sorry, I said, of course. So my first two cases, I lost.
I lost one.
Yeah. So that case, it was a motion prohibition, not granted. And then Republic of Sarah Kroma convicted. Now, every time Justice Barabo sees me, now, I said, "No, there is some Boafo. Let me tell you something. The operation was successful, but the patient died." So they gave me. So what he was telling me was that the fact that he convicted my client don't mean I didn't do well. Yeah. So that was my baptism of fire. So for me, I don't believe in this new thing that we do. Why? Yes, for 6 months. I always tell people that the profession is like driving. No matter how you teach driving in the
let
classroom,
them sit behind
and
you.
the first day you sit behind the wheel, when the car is bypassing you, you'll be scared. When the car is behind you, you have to crash the car a bit, then do those things. But eventually, the most important thing is that you need a driving instructor by your side before you die. So the issue is that you need a senior lawyer to mentor you. Let me share this experience for everybody to listen. And then, you know, at times you get a bit cocky, you think, you know, so at that time, all the young lawyers, Yahoo future. So I was getting a bit into my head. I think about a year or so, about a year or a year and a half.
Just to chip this in, you don't have an English name, right?
No. Okay. My name is Yao Champon Boafo.
Yeah, that's
straight.
Oh, called Prempekali.
Yeah, I don't have an English. I don't have anything called. I'm not a Joshua or a Henry or anybody else. Like. So I did this experience I always share with people. I go to court, and then the senior lawyer does something, and I filed a motion. Literally, you know, it was more of my ego, you know. I think he had did some technical things, and I was feeling very good when they struck its rate out. And the late JB just looked at Boafo. This is how he said, Boafo, when you have time, come to my office this afternoon. That's how he spoke. And you know, Snapobi was this legend. We used to go and watch him, like going to watch your star sing. You know, he was a genius.
He knew the law.
He was a genius. JB Opobi was something else. And so I went to his office, and he had this, you know, typical fun. He would take off his and roll his sleeves, and he said, "Boafo, sit down. How would you rate your performance this morning?" "Oh, senior, you know, all that this. I was just reciting." He looked at me. He said, "Boafo, for a junior lawyer, I was amazed at the depth of your knowledge in law, but you are absolutely incompetent." So I was like, what? I mean, it doesn't make sense, isn't it? How can a genius tell me that my knowledge in law was there, but I was incompetent? Then he told me something. It's a Boafo. For some reason, I like you. I want you to tell me how the case developed so that you learn hard way. So when I was working from Gattisburg Road to the office, I was almost in tears. What exactly had I done? Do you know what? I had bruised the ego of a senior lawyer. From that day, when senior Boafo and commercial, you know, he just took a total dislike for me. My client owed money, and this was me making my mouth papa. So the lawyer goes back, puts his house in order, comes back, takes judgment against my client because basically he owed money. My client then asked me to go and see Boafo and Kama to plead. Sinakama told me if I don't get out of his office,
you have smeared him.
My
some
client
time
had
back.
to go and take some ponkobosia before he was able to pay all those things. So I sat in the office and I was teary-eyed. So actually it would have been my fault.
Yes.
So I went back to Senior Pobi. He said, Boafo, yes. Ankama showed it to me. You should have used that as a bargaining thing. You can't need that. There's no any time that you get a case, don't think about yourself. What is your client's best interest? And that changed my life as a lawyer. So at times I see so many lawyers and I laugh. You know, your person comes to court and he wants to let everybody knows that. But what is the interest of your client? So what Senior Pobi told me, and is a mantra that I've said, is that there are some matters you have to settle. Then you realize that being friends with your colleagues, not fighting with judges, you know, all those little things matter.
Not burning bridges.
It matters because, you know, there are some lawyers who can just call you, oh, senior, please, I want to come and settle this matter. And you say, you're going to say, okay, because of you. So you realize that as a lawyer, your grace should be sufficient for your client. And it's very, very important. So at times, you know, some lawyers, when their colleagues are there, are absent, then they are running them down, taking cost against somebody, you know, these things. No, it doesn't help you. So one thing that I learned was that being competent and being knowledgeable in law were not necessarily convergent. Of course, you need a certain level of thing. Because Pobi told me something, Boafo, let your law always be average, but let your competence be top notch. That is it. So a lawyer must be competent. You know, when you have the matter, what is it in my client's interest? At times, there's no need for you to go making noise. Especially, for example, you have a matrimonial course. Somebody comes to tell you, the details are gory. You know, why do you go and stand in court and let everybody know there was infidelity and the children and everything? You sit down, you saw these matters out.
Said there are issues involved.
Absolutely. Because our elders will tell you, you get the point that sometimes you just have to tell people that, listen, if somebody even owes your client money, instead of going to waste 3 years in court, you know, these are all the little things that we learn. But you see, the most important thing for us was that because we had legends in that era, you know, we could walk into their chambers. My father was very busy doing politics, so I walk into JBO Pobi's office, Papa Datsun, Asumedu Sechi, you know, WK Dapa. You go there, you know, at times I'll go and even just go to Asumedu Sechi, and I'll tell him, senior, you know, your district courts, let me do them for you. You know why? So that when I come back, I'll ask him things. So when he got old, he asked his he was retired. He asked his clients to bring their cases for me. You know, at times I'll do matters for them. That's how we learn. And in our generation of lawyers, if you look at Mike Lozu, Sante Krobia, that's what we did. You know, we all had all the seniors were available. You could go to anybody. But these days, you see a lot of people, and they think that they knew some 2x4 knowledge of the law. They have arrived, especially now that lawyers are making their name in the media and everything. You know, when you said I was a legal luminary, I was laughing there. You know the reason why? I always tell people that when the blind leads the blind, they both fall in the pit. But when the blind leads the one with a clear eyesight, that's an abomination. When your colleague lawyers say that you're a legal luminary,
then you really are.
But when
see, I don't do that to me.
No, I mean, when somebody says that you're a legal luminary, the person doesn't even know what legal is for you to be a luminary. You know, yes, you know, in 2001.
But I do.
Because also you, by virtue of matrimony, you practice pillow law, so you can convert.
Not you too.
You know, the legendary J. Kajimai and other lawyers were honored in 2001 in Sunyani at the bar conference, and he said something. So you can make all the name, make all the money, but when your colleagues consider you as one of the best, that is the greatest honor a lawyer can have. So it's something that people must. It's a learning curve. And you see, the thing about law is that there are over 500, 1,000 branches of the law. Law of the sea, law of the air, law of this. You can never be an expert in everything. So consultation, working around. So I tell junior lawyers that when your senior gives you a case for you to work on, don't go thinking that your senior is incompetent. You know, he's giving the opportunity for you to learn.
Also
you
shine
get the,
too.
Yeah, so the point. So that for me, it's what I learned in the thing. And I was very happy that we came around in the early 90s. We came to meet the legends of that time, you know, and you know, because those days when you saw Toto, Mir, Kobe, the Champo and Co argue in court, you start thinking, hey, would I get there? You know, that
And
is
here you are.
absolutely. By God's grace.
You know that I had a whole list of questions, but I just feel I'm speaking to my father, who is just taking us through life. Anyway, Nana Kojo Jantua says hi, and Charlotte, my very own Ma Charlotte says hi. During this conversation, I've noticed that you're still very rooted in tradition. In your line of delivery, you're very rooted in family, in the upbringing of an individual. It's like tradition means a lot to you. And now the world is advancing. Even law is. Every day there are new laws, there are new my husband would say something, would say bibi was so question bibi na ya system bibi Supreme Court into to me so no, you know, so a lot of things are advancing. How are you able to merge tradition and law and still stand out? Because at some point tradition may not mean so much in the court. I don't know if I'm making sense, but on the other hand too, without tradition we will not be guided. How do you strike a balance for both?
Has God ever made a mistake?
Not yet.
No. For me, nobody chooses where you're born.
Okay.
So for those of us who have an unshakable faith in God, I believe that God did not make a mistake. So God is in infinite wisdom created me an Asante man. In his infinite, so I'm not an error being an Asante. So I must know what it is to be an Asante. And that doesn't make me an error. That's the whole point. You know, Jesus Christ lived as a Jewish, the son of a Jewish man. The Bible says he first came into the Jews, after the Jews, the Gentiles. So he lived, learned his father's trade just like any other Jewish boy. He understood all the traditions of the practices and everything. So for me, the greatest error that we make is this. We think that Western traditions are necessarily of a superior level to ours, and it's because we don't even understand what it is that for example, I say this thing, if you know my pet hate is people who don't teach their children, who don't speak the local language of their children. And I'll tell people that if you take your child
they don't teach you.
No, you see, so I tell people that if you take your child to Rich, Hilltop, ICS, or you pay those fees, and the child cannot speak English, then I'm going to crash it. No, because you see, because you should know very well that when you take your child to that school and your child applies to say, oh yeah, then objective Boafo. But Abraham, let me draw your attention.
Please,
let me draw your attention to this. Today, people have become born again, and what do they speak in tongues? Jesus Christ said, you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you'll be my witness in Jerusalem, Judea. What was the evidence of the Holy Spirit coming? Language. So people said that, and these people from God, how can we hear them now? So language is the only sign of identity. So if you say you belong to a group of people and you cannot speak the language, you have no identity. It's not communication. So as an Asante man, I should be able to say Etiseng. I should be able to speak P, because that's what I call the mother tongue. That's the language God gave me. Because that one, I don't have to go to school to learn it. And as parents, we must make sure that our children have the identity. So the issue is, that is why people even ask us, Boafo didn't they say? Isn't it surprising that even now that we give our children English names, the child be called Charles Kwame Ofusu? Who's the Kwame Ofusu near Papa? So even in this whole thing, so what I'm trying to say is that language, even God uses language as identity. So with the coming of the Holy Spirit, the evidence was language. Today, people go to church, speak in tongues, and come home and tell their children Boafo.
But someone will also ask you that why is it you're an Asante man, you go to court and you argue in English?
No, that's what I'm saying, because it's a language I learned. I wasn't born speaking English. But the Englishman was born speaking English. English is not my mother tongue, it's my official language.
Okay.
That's why people can be polyglot. You can learn the thing. But the fundamental thing is that today, that same Englishman, when he sees me, you ask you, which part of Africa are you from? That is the whole point. No matter how you speak, let's say you have you speak English like King Charles. If you say your name is Abnaki Yado, that Englishman will tell you, in spite of the fact that you speak English, he's going to ask you where are you from. That is why now they are saying that they have multicultural societies. But you know one thing I find so funny? Indians are more successful than blacks. Indians speak their language everywhere they go, including in the diaspora. Donald Trump says he's going to make English the only language in America. Why? Because the Hispanics are speaking too much Spanish, but they all speak English. Turkish. No matter where a Turkish is born, who speak Turkish. How come we are the only ones who think that we have to jettison our language? A client asked me to accompany him to see some Turkish guy who does bespoke furniture, somewhere Syntex Tank area, Spintex Road. Now this Turkish man has a daughter with a Ghanaian woman. The daughter was about 4 years when I went, and he was speaking Turkish
with a girl.
And the lady was speaking this, so I changed to GBC one. I said, "Mini Oba, na yeso ye de na." And then I'm saying, "Na ukunu kasa ne ye de mo na ede." You see, we do so many wrong things and we rationalize it. I don't see how you can tell me that I see somebody, a friend Abna Kiyado, etisaying or seminti minka. Because
almost a man that can say the remote it is there.
No, you see, so my point is that
you.
If you are a parent and your responsibility is to bring up a child, just like a Jewish father will bring up the child like a Jew, you have to bring up your child like an Asante, like a Fante, like a God. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
While still giving them the elites.
When you take your child to school,
privileges,
you are teaching you are going to the child to get schooled in a language which is not even indigenous to you. But your job is to pay for him to have that official language. And it's something that we have to be deliberate about. Because, Abna, can you have a customary marriage in English? Can you organize a funeral? You know, don't we even get it? Don't we even get it that the traditions that we have, you can only handle them if you speak the language. You know, for example, you see how today we are killing ourselves even with our local food.
YFM.
Because we become very anglicized. You'd go, somebody has prepared ampesi, but then it is garnished and then there are all artificial flavorings in there. We don't eat with our hands. You know, those are some of the things that I'm trying to do. And the reason why our economy suffers. Why? Because you see, when you start becoming very Western, now everybody goes to funeral wearing kaftans. Nigerians are making money. You see, what is it that we've gotten so funny that today Ghanaians are learning from Nigerians?
I hear you're always entreating the young lawyers too.
Now they don't listen to me anymore because you see, they don't listen to me because you see, for me, what shocks me is people say that a Nomania be. Then you see a Ghanaian casting marriage like a Nigerian. You know, you see men wearing kaftans jumping around like giraffes. And then now everybody calls their boyfriend, girlfriend B because of Nigerian comedians. So we've gotten so inferior that Nigerian comedians are. Now when you go to a marriage, you see, what is this now? People wearing all these kaftans, giving gifts, throwing, and now you see women even showing the top of their chest, which is, how do we get married? It's even expensive to do our customary marriages. So what I'm trying to say is that, and that's the reason why we become a very divided society. You know why? In our local language, is there any word for stepbrother? No. Is there the word for auntie? But because now we have things like cousins and things, we are pushing people away because me uncle, me cousin. People are thinking in English. And it becomes anathema. So the point is that somebody would know how to knot a bow tie, which is very difficult. It's far more difficult than a cloth, but he would not be able to put on a cloth. And you go to Achimota, you go to Infantipim, Wesley Girls, all the top of Prempeh College and all. Let me add that one. Yes, but you see, you go there, and the white man who set up the school says that Sunday front Marcus the sorry.
Yeah.
He the white man. Front Marco, sorry. Then you leave Achimota, you leave until you leave Prempeh. Oh, but we are will say what watching. Oh, a year now shirt and a number. And you know how people suffer for this. I'll tell you one thing, a lot of time is going to come. So many royals can never contest their stools anymore. Because today, when your mother dies, then you take her to Gethsemane and leave her there. Your mother is a royal. You've not brought her into the mausoleum. One day, you say that you want to be a hima. So, would there be that that Gethsemane? Who knew about that Lashibi? We don't, because now we don't even go to our hometowns. We don't do anything. We don't even understand the country that we do that anymore. Because now, and the worst thing is that our children, they are not doing it because we are saying they should do it. I had a shock of my life about why I started getting very passionate about 9 years ago. At the officers' mess, we squash club, we organize a family day. Normally what we do is that we separate the alcohol area from the subject, so the kids go one side. And I was sitting on the disused refrigerator we use as a chiller. Then just some silly thing, I said, oh, I'm going to do an experiment. So when they come, you know how they say, uncle, I want drink. Like W0MEN. This is Kumasi. Children born to Asante parents. They couldn't even say W0MEN Fanta. And they'll go report them to their mothers. And the mothers will be coming because the uncle doesn't speak English. Is supposed to be the lawyer Pachewa. They say, I am here. You know, and I find it intriguing that we actually think that
it's fun.
And that's the reason why we are destroying everything. You know, let me tell you something. We all do these things. When you have a child, and you give the child bacon sausage, you don't give the child Hausa cocoa and MPC and everything, you are buying disease for your child. That's a sad thing that we do. And our lives has become very expensive now because we have to be very, very anglicized. So I'm just saying that, for me, it matters to me that I'm an Asante man because God did not make a mistake. So if you ask anybody, I don't play with my traditions. I consider I'll go and pay homage to the Asante. No. I'll go to church in the morning and pay homage to to my God. But I'll go and pay homage to Asante. And if you ask anybody, I don't play my traditions. If you see me wearing a shirt at a funeral in Kumasi, then maybe I came from work. Tomorrow I'm going to Mamponte Hima's funeral. Me friend to man. Because, and you can ask your husband, when I was regional president, you know what I used to do?
He said it.
I'll sit in front of the bus.
Okay.
If you come there, no, you see, because normally they'll come with, you have to show me the cloth before you sit in the bus. Now they've let it go. Because you see, I believe that and that we should think. So for me, traditions matter. It's rather unfortunate that it's rather unfortunate that the church is rallying against something which is based on a misconception. So there's a difference between amamre and amanie, culture and rituals. You know, rituals are the religious practices that may not sit with, but look at that one. It's not everybody who can do it. When you go to your hometown, the chairman, you know, there are people who are dedicated to do it. But culture is the way we live. For example, I don't still want anybody to point his finger at me with the left hand. I don't let people take things with the left hand because the left hand is disrespectful in our society. And I will teach my son not to do that. And if you're a kid, you give me something left, I will tell you no.
What about a person who's a southpaw?
Southpaws can give things with their right hand. You get the point. You write I've no problem. But I'm just saying that we don't use our left hand to give. It may be arbitrary or what. That is who we are. You know, for example, we don't call elderly people, like, I would not want my son call you Abna. No, Sister Abna, Auntie Abna. You know, these are things that makes who we are. It is not a kid. When I was GBA president, on 2 occasions I was invited to a state dinner. And I was disappointed because I go to the state dinner and the menu is like I'm in France.
Spaghetti bolognese.
No, you see, but so what is it? And that is what has created this inferiority. Because with everything must be in English. Things that don't have an English name
don't have a meaning.
But all the things that people drink now, you know, for example, if you look at the history of whiskey, Jamaican rum, they all started out as like a petition. But the people later saw it's our own. But today, look at, we still kept a petition as in Mguasiensa to this day. Because it is traditionally ours. So for me, that's the reason why we cannot even fashion system that work for us. Because our fathers created chieftaincy. That is what we could have looked at, studied it very well to see how we could texture it to the modern thing. You go and bring universal adult suffrage because they come and dump it. It's not going to work. That's how systems don't work for us. You know, for example, people are saying that we should abolish chieftaincy, we should do this, we should do this. Everything from the West, you come and you put it out there. No, we must understand that there are certain things that are ours. If we work on it, we can texture it, but we must understand. It's like medicine. Doctors will tell you that if they don't get the diagnosis correct, they cannot prescribe a cure. We must, even if we want to change, we must understand what we are changing. You know, one thing that I keep on asking myself is, before universities came to Ghana, our fathers all went to universities abroad. They came back home and they did not change our culture. But when we started having universities locally, we are the ones who are changing things. And now, you know, when somebody speaks English and it's not at the king's level or the queen's level, your best friend is but you get the point. But when you do that, people lose the essence of the culture that's who they are. That is the reason why today marriages are collapsing. Because what actually happened, the safety net that brought marriages in the sense of like family came together. Because you see, if you want to divorce your husband and your mother says, "Mempene," it's totally different from a counselor telling you, "Mempene." And you know, and even looking at what we do, your father agreed with Alfred's father for you to marry. Then somebody who has never paid your school fees before, somebody who doesn't even know you, because you just decided to attend church there, says, "I'm a counselor. Come for me 6 months." And if you come before him or her 6 months, and you jettison your father's one, and you go to take hers, and your marriage collapses, then you know the point. So there are so many things that we're doing wrongly. And when you go to this council, what do they tell you? About warrior, they don't tell you anything. Me, I've said that the only arbitrary thing, if I had power, that I would do in Ghana is to ban counseling, marriage counseling.
I was going to ask you that if you could change one thing about Ghana's legal profession with a pen.
The legal profession, but this one, if I had my own ways, the constitutional, I would say that we should leave parents to bring up their children, parents to agree to marriage. The fact that you are an elder in the church or you're a pastor does not mean you know how to bring Abna Kiyadom than the mother. And Abna Kiyadom is not your daughter. I bring my son differently from somebody else. That's me. But the idea that you think your formula of bringing up your child or your formula of marriage is of universal application is an error.
Senior, I wish you're not traveling next week because we need to have a part 2 of this. But unfortunately, my time is up. But I had one question that I was going to ask you at all costs. It wasn't drafted here. It has to do with the rate at which murder cases are going on, especially when it comes to relationship. I want to ask you in twofold. One, as a traditional man, what do you think we are not doing right that these cases are still with us in the society, that people are still nipa also done on suna ebewi said na nipa kumbiaba? Then entity na say what is wrong, and then as a legal person,
you've escaped me from being controversial today, but unfortunately I think that when you bring up your son and your daughter the same, it's an error.
When you bring up your son
and your daughter the same
way.
principle, is an error.
How?
Men must be brought up differently from the women. Wow. You see, men and women are equal but different.
Okay.
So you know, when we're kids, if you touch your sister, your father will beat you up. But your father will teach you to maybe pound the fufu, your sister will turn the fufu, your father will teach you to do this. That was the thing. You know, the greatest mistake we've made is to think that women and men must share the same responsibility. So a lot of time, there are a lot of men walking around like women. Because you see, what people thought was misogyny was actually responsibilities. Are we smarter than God? When God was passing judgment on Adam and Eve, he told woman that this is yours.
Yes, you go through labor painfully.
So from the beginning, but they were all created by God. He said male and female created he them. So I always tell people that men are not superior to women, women are not inferior to men. But we are different. And we must understand that our differences does not make one inferior. Okay. The problem with this younger generation is for them to think that because they sit in classrooms with women, the women are getting, there are times they take women far too seriously than, you know, there's this saying that if your wife slaps you, it's romantic. But if you slap her, it's domestic abuse. Isn't that what you say? One of the things that I've noticed, and it may sound a bit, is that when you take women too seriously, you die early. Because they are the only people who enhance everything God gave them.
Don't they tell you are controversial?
I'm truthful. You see, one thing, when I'm going to do a program like that, I really doesn't want to do it because he thinks that I'll say, but you see, I don't know how to lie.
Okay.
But I believe strongly that we've reached a stage that some of us must put our head on the chopping block. That's why when I hear all this relationship thing, I think it's a complete waste of everybody's time. You teach your son to accept responsibility, not to hate your daughter. You know, those are the things. So even if you're teaching, you see your daughter, you know, we must teach that.
Then again, we should also teach the girls not to provoke the men.
Absolutely. Don't you get it? Because we have taught some kind of wrong equality. You know, it's like, you know what they say, unity in diversity. You know, you are union, but we are different. You are united, but we are different. I mean, men don't have wombs. Women will not have semen. So that's why when we're kids, we will tell you that hey, you know, we were taught generally. So when we were kids, we were taught systematically that the female body is not a touchable thing. It taught you responsibility. So your father will tell you, hey, it wasn't because they were teaching something an error. So what I've noticed today is that especially these days, men, you see men having conversations like, what is the woman bringing to the table? Nothing. We've not taught men to be responsible. Because the Bible says, I have cursed the ground for the sake of man, not the sake of woman. Our whole body
even changes during pregnancy.
The sweat of the brow. So you see this thing on the table. Now that, you know, that's what I'm saying, that now, I think because of monogamy, every man has become an eligible bachelor. So you hear men sitting down there, what is the woman bringing to the table? Help her. The men are living off their women's income. And they still want to be men. Absolutely not. So for me, the problems that we are having is that we are not teaching men to be men. And we are not teaching women to be. We've taught all of them to be the same. You know, when I was just coming here, I was listening to somebody who was going about joint accounts. I said, okay, fine. You get the point. These are some of the problems that we brought onto.
But you don't recommend that?
Let me tell you something. A man's money is for everybody who's dependent on him. A woman's money is hers. So me, I always tell people that if you give your husband money, take it back from him.
If you give your husband money, take it back from him. You
were sitting here somewhere that a man said he was coming to take you from your father's trouble. How many women go chasing? So when you decide to go and take somebody's daughter, you must be in the position to take care of that man's daughter for her, or leave the thing. The only problem, maybe another time, the only problem is that these days, because of prosperity meeting, motivational speaking, people live beyond their means. That's the problem. You see, look, you walk into, say, Lancaster. The people you see there having Sunday lunch are those recently married people. forgetting that when you go to Lancaster every weekend, that is school fees. So that's the reason you see people are living beyond their means, because we've taught some people some misguided thing about prosperity, this. So most young men don't know how to crawl, how to
get to the top.
So what is up? There's too much pressure on them. And 2, I don't even understand why anybody must have a lavish marriage ceremony. You see, let me say, if you understand our culture, in the days of old, it's all worry. Now in it was to teach you prudence. Because for me, if we were honest, we should go to weddings in black and funerals in white. Because when you go to a funeral, the person is going to come back. But when you go to weddings, it's a journey of the unknown. It could work out well. It will not work out well. That is why in our father's time, they use weddings to honor our mothers. Almost brasi, I don't know why it to be. Or say, oh, if you do, may have been our train change. Because I'm not. So when and you've not gone through hardship and you think you have a husband or you have a wife. No. So you see, when you start marriage, it's 50-50. It can work, it cannot work. But we have taught people that from the day that you bring people together, automatically there's some divine triggering that everything is going to go straight up. So people go into marriage with some deluded expectations. But you are dealing with a human being, not an angelic body. The worst thing is that when we marry in church, perfect. But the Bible says when the sons of God gathered, the devil was there. Why do we think that the people who go to nightclubs on Saturday are the ones who shop on church on Sundays? Absolutely. So when we are putting people together, we should let them know that they have to work very hard at it. So I don't believe that marriage is a blessing.
But senior,
it's something that we start.
One last thing: if you don't want us to go, you want us to do the traditional marriage. How would you get paid? How would lawyers get money?
Lawyers don't. How would lawyers get money if we have only traditional marriages? Well, if lawyers lose income for the safety for society getting better. Which one is better? You don't want to talk about lawyers, I say we'll go to heaven more than any profession. We care about the society, Because the devil will always confound those on earth. The wise will be. Listen, the Bible says that we go to heaven because we've helped people. Which profession does free work more than us? Legal pro bono, legal aid. It's part of us. Absolutely. That is what we do.
Right.
But for me, the point, I'm not saying that when you do traditional marriage, it is guaranteed it's going to work. Absolutely. There's no guarantee. And you see, you can even have a very expensive traditional marriage, because at times you go to certain traditional marriages and it's costing about 1 million cedis, because because at times I ask myself this question. Sa and sana yejene santuma yede yeden abna utiho wahwe baba amna du fie du bema kwase to be see my father kote kaswa. Me, I've told all my children that nobody's going to come and do that in front of any of my daughters. I have 4 daughters. Nobody's going to do that in front of them. I've told them that I don't want to know it, because I'm taking care of them. So until they get married, I'll take care of them. But if you come, you bring some Bible, take a go. I have no problem.
And I see you brought your Bible here.
Yes, it's always with me. I was one in the car. Yes, you get the point. So, Abna, we should let's do things better. And the point is, what benefit is it in spending 500,000, 300,000, 400,000 on a day, whether be it customary or be it? And do you know what happens? The thing about marriage is that it's like a car. When it starts a journey, it can get there or not get there. So usually the funny thing, when you're unfortunate and your marriage collapses, I think I'm not trying the car. But if you are done quietly, I'm not.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sat with the former GBA president, Champo Boafo, and this is by far one of our best interviews. I wish we were not ending. The lawyer who came in with the Bible, and one thing is that Obanoko school and the boy then says Nuntmin Cabrofa, young one is on your cratchy. We'll write that down. I appreciate your coming, Tina. If I'd mark it down, someday I'll do my pupillage in your firm. You need to train me.
You definitely be welcome. Maybe by that time I'll have retired.
I'll stop the pillow law and actually get it.
But no matter what, you're going to have a what is it? What your case? Any couple.
Shout out to Medimex Ayurvedic Soap. Mr. Obenebi Onivero, Opoku Trading SG Mall. Please call 0244 588-324 or 0550-615-922. I apologize, we can't take calls today. We'll bring Senior back. I don't know how, I don't know when, but we'll do something. We'll have to
because
bring
of
him
you,
Senior, please, because the comments.
Let me put on record that your husband is my brother-in-law. And I don't want any matrimonial because that troublesome woman who happens to be my wife. So I know very well. And you see, this small thing, you could have sent anybody to my office. I was there, and your husband brought a delegation. I said, so because normally I don't like doing interviews. I know, but because I don't want problem at home. And I don't want. So the next time I would come.
Please, you need to. We'll look through your schedule on a very free weekday like that. Would have you again. Hello to every one of you that watched us on Facebook. We truly appreciate you. My name is Abena K. Yadoma. I brought you Leaderboard series. We sat with Yao Champon Boafo, the former Ghana Bar Association president, and it's been insightful. One kai krano. Osema umbani to kama da tango ai te ubanu ko school na ne bo den say na won kabro fa is a crutching na one yinting how all right, but I'm hoping that you had a good time. I'll see you again next week Wednesday. Bye bye.